Starcraft II: Wings of Liberty. 2010 was the year competitive strategy reached a new peak. Starcraft II: Wings of Liberty wasn't just a sequel, it was a global event. Blizzard delivered a campaign that felt like a Hollywood blockbuster, with Jim Raynor leading a rebellion that kept players hooked from start to finish. But the real impact came from the multiplayer. Starcraft II became the esport of the 2010s, with players from Korea and around the world battling in matches so intense they were broadcast in packed stadiums. The balance between Terran, Protoss, and Zerg was endlessly debated. Strategies evolved every month, and watching a pro pull off insane micro was like watching art in motion. For strategy fans, 2010 was the birth of a new era, an era where RTS wasn't just a game, it was a competitive sport. Total War Shogun II. 2011 gave us one of the most beautiful strategy games ever made, Total War Shogun II. After the complexity overload of Empire and Napoleon, Creative Assembly went back to basics, and it worked. Set in feudal Japan, Shogun II was elegant, focused, and deeply atmospheric. The cherry blossom fields, the mist-covered battlefields, the clash of samurai armies. It felt like stepping into an Akira Kurosawa movie. The strategy wasn't just about raw power, it was about honor, loyalty, and careful planning. Every battle felt cinematic. Every campaign was a tale of betrayal and ambition. Shogun II proved that sometimes less is more, and it remains one of the most beloved entries in the entire Total War franchise.
XCOM: Enemy Unknown. In 2012, XCOM: Enemy Unknown showed the world that turn-based strategy could still capture the mainstream. Firaxis revived a cult classic, but they did more than just update the graphics. They created one of the most nerve-wracking games of the decade. Every mission was a gamble. Send your squad into the unknown, pray that your shots hit, and live with the consequences when they didn't. The fear of losing a soldier permanently gave the game real emotional weight. You weren't just moving chess pieces, you were sending your best sniper, the one who saved your squad 5 missions ago, into danger again. Base building added another layer of tension, forcing you to manage resources and deal with global panic. When you won, it felt like you saved humanity. When you lost, it felt personal. Few games have ever blended strategy and emotion as perfectly as XCOM: Enemy Unknown. Europa Universalis IV. 2013 was the year Paradox cemented itself as the master of grand strategy with Europa Universalis IV. This wasn't a game for casuals. It was a sprawling, complex, mind-bending simulation of global history. From the Renaissance to the Enlightenment, you controlled a nation's destiny, balancing wars, diplomacy, trade, and religion. And the beauty was that no two campaigns ever played the same. One run, you might spread the Ottoman Empire across Europe. The next, you might turn a tiny nation into a colonial superpower. It wasn't about scripted missions. It was about writing your own alternate history. EU4 became a black hole for strategy fans' free time. Hundreds of hours disappeared without notice. It wasn't just a game, it was a time machine, letting you reshape the past in ways both absurd and genius.
Hearthstone. 2014 might surprise some people because it wasn't about giant maps or massive armies. It was about cards. Blizzard's Hearthstone exploded onto the scene and turned digital card games into a mainstream obsession. What made it so brilliant was its accessibility, easy to learn but ridiculously hard to master. The colorful art, the voice lines, the satisfaction of pulling off a perfect combo, it all clicked. But beneath the casual appearance, Hearthstone had deep strategy. Every deck was a mind game. Every turn a battle of bluffing and calculation. It wasn't just a card game, it became a culture. Streamers, tournaments, memes. Hearthstone was everywhere. For many, it was the gateway into competitive strategy gaming, and it proved that strategy doesn't always need grand armies to feel epic. Cities Skylines. Then came 2015, and with it, the resurrection of the city building genre. Cities Skylines gave us everything SimCity 2013 failed to deliver. It was massive, customizable, and endlessly replayable. The modding scene took it to legendary status, with players creating new buildings, systems, and even entire cities from scratch. Skylines wasn't just about placing roads and zones. It was about solving real problems like traffic, pollution, and public services, and somehow fixing a traffic jam at 3 a.m. was the most satisfying thing in the world. Every city felt personal, every skyline a reflection of the player's creativity. City Skylines didn't just revive city sims, it reinvented them, setting a new bar that no other game has reached since.
XCOM II. 2016 was the year strategy fans got a true test of patience, nerves, and tactical thinking. XCOM II took the brutal formula of enemy unknown and made it even harsher. Humanity had already lost. Earth was under alien control. You weren't the powerful defender anymore. You were the resistance, hiding in shadows, striking when you could. Every mission felt like desperation. Every move was a gamble. Soldiers you loved and named could be lost forever in a single bad turn, and that pain stuck with you. But that was also the beauty of it. Victory tasted sweeter because it was so hard to earn. The tension of a 95% miss, the heartbreak of watching your best sniper die, the joy of a perfect ambush. XCOM 2 wasn't just a game. It was a roller coaster of emotions, brutal, unforgettable, and pure strategy magic. Total War Warhammer II. 2017 gave us one of the most spectacular fantasy strategy games ever made. Total War Warhammer II wasn't just another entry in the franchise. It was the moment when Total War embraced the wild, the magical, the larger-than-life. The campaign map was massive, the factions were incredibly diverse, and the battles were jaw-dropping. You could command dragons, legions of undead, or reptilian armies straight out of nightmares. Each race had its own mechanics, its own flavor, making campaigns feel fresh and unique every time. The sieges, the betrayals, the alliances, it all felt like being part of an epic fantasy novel where you were the author. For many, this game wasn't just the best in the Warhammer trilogy, it was the peak of the entire Total War franchise.
Into the Breach. 2018 reminded us that brilliance doesn't need scale. Into the Breach looked tiny at first. Small grids, simple pixel art, a handful of mechs. But inside that simplicity was one of the smartest strategy games ever designed. The genius was in the perfect information. The game told you exactly what enemies would do next. No random dice rolls, no surprises, just pure, brutal puzzles where your brain was the weapon. Do you push that monster into the water? Sacrifice your mech to save a city, block a spawn, and lose a pilot? Every move mattered. And when you pulled off the perfect turn, saving the city by the skin of your teeth, it felt like victory against impossible odds. It wasn't flashy, but it was elegant, tense, utterly addictive. Into the Breach proved that strategy is about depth, not size. Total War Three Kingdoms. 2019 brought us to ancient China with Total War Three Kingdoms, and it was a masterpiece of drama and politics. Unlike other entries, this wasn't just about building armies, it was about characters. Generals weren't faceless units anymore. They were legendary heroes with stories, rivalries, and ambitions. The duel system was iconic. Watching two champions clash in the middle of a huge battle was pure cinema. Diplomacy finally felt alive, with alliances, betrayals, and coalitions constantly reshaping the map. It wasn't just conquest, it was survival in a shifting political landscape. Three Kingdoms managed to be both grand and personal, giving you the thrill of empire building and the intimacy of character-driven drama. For many fans, this was the most polished and ambitious historical Total War ever.
Crusader Kings III. 2020 was chaos in real life, but inside the gaming world, Crusader Kings III gave us the chaos we actually wanted. Medieval dynasties filled with betrayal, scandal, and absurd drama. You didn't just control a kingdom, you controlled a family, a bloodline. Your ruler grew old, died, and was replaced by an heir who might be brilliant or completely incompetent. Suddenly, your perfect empire could collapse because your new king was a lunatic who married his cousin and declared war on the Pope. And that's the magic of CK3. The stories. No two playthroughs were the same. Sometimes you were a genius emperor, sometimes a paranoid wreck, sometimes a tyrant everyone hated. Losing was often more entertaining than winning. It wasn't just a strategy game, it was the ultimate medieval soap opera, and that's why it's so beloved. Age of Empires IV. In 2021, nostalgia roared back with Age of Empires IV. For nearly 2 decades, fans begged for the series to return, and when it did, it felt like coming home. The classic formula was there. Gather, build, expand. conquer. But each civilization had unique mechanics that made them feel fresh. The Mongols could move their entire base, the English dominated with longbows, and every faction had its own personality. The campaigns mixed gameplay with historical storytelling, turning battles into living documentaries. Some fans wanted even more depth, but for millions of players, this was exactly what they dreamed of, the revival of one of the greatest RTS franchises ever. Age of Empires wasn't just back, it was alive again.
Dune Spice Wars. 2022 was the return of a legend. Dune Spice Wars brought strategy back to the desert planet of Arrakis, the birthplace of RTS. It wasn't just fan service, it was a solid blend of 4X strategy and real-time tactics. Spice was everything. Your currency, your lifeline, your path to dominance. You had to manage harvesting while avoiding sandworms, balancing diplomacy, and crushing rival houses. The atmosphere was pure Dune, harsh, unforgiving, and political. It may not have been the flashiest game of the year, but for strategy fans and Dune lovers, it was a dream fulfilled. The spice must flow, and this game made sure it did. Company of Heroes III. 2023 reminded us why Company of Heroes is one of the greatest RTS series of all time. Set in the Mediterranean during World War II, this entry combined intense tactical combat with a dynamic campaign map. Every decision shaped the war. Do you push now or wait for reinforcements? Do you risk supply lines or play it safe? The moment-to-moment combat was as cinematic as ever. Squads scrambling for cover, tanks blasting through buildings, artillery ripping the battlefield apart. It wasn't just about winning, it was about surviving against relentless odds. Company of Heroes 3 carried the torch of classic RTS, proving the genre could still deliver pure adrenaline.
Manor Lords. Then came 2024, and a single developer shook the strategy world with Manor Lords. This medieval city builder RTS hybrid exploded in popularity because it gave us what we'd been dreaming of: realism, detail, and freedom. Villages didn't look like grids, they grew naturally. Winding roads and organic layouts. Every peasant mattered. Every farm had purpose. Every market felt alive. And then came the battles. Hundreds of soldiers clashing in gritty, brutal medieval warfare that looked straight out of history books. It was both a city simulator and a war game all rolled into one. Manor Lords wasn't just hype, it was proof that passion and vision can rival the biggest studios. Ara History Untold. Finally, 2025 is the year of Ara History Untold, a brand new grand strategy from veterans of the Civilization series. On the surface, it looks like another Civ competitor, but its fresh ideas set it apart. Simultaneous turns keep the pace snappy, and its focus on culture, legacy, and the soul of your nation makes it feel like you're shaping history in a new way. The visuals are stunning, the mechanics promise innovation, and the community is buzzing with excitement. Ara feels like the start of a new legacy, the next big name in strategy. If it delivers on its promise, 2025 could be remembered as the year a new giant was born.